Hey sisters, how are you holding up? It's Friday, April 17th. I've just finished my 5th week of working from home, and so far so good. I'm grateful that I have a job, that I have income as I serve in a ministry context, and am waiting to see what's going to unfold in the weeks to come, as I know all of you are as well, as we just don't know what the Lord is going to do with this pandemic, what his purposes are for it. But I wanted to share a little bit of what I've been kind of processing and meditating on over the recent days. So a few weeks ago, the Lord used a situation in my life to really bring some fresh humbling. And it was hard, but it's been really good and really fruitful. And as a woman who is in the midst of a lot of different leadership opportunities, one of the lessons that is coming from what happened was the Lord is teaching me afresh of what it means to follow, and how to follow with humility, how to follow with dependence upon Christ. And what was one of the key invitations that Jesus gives to people that would be his followers? Come and follow me. So I've been having some fresh lessons about that. I wanted to just share with you a little bit of some things that I've been thinking on, and I'm right present tense in the midst of this, from John 21. Just to give you a little bit of context, if you're newer to Bible study, chapter 21 is the very last book in the Gospel of John. And it's coming post-resurrection of Jesus. I don't know how many days, but in this chapter, we read about the third appearance that Jesus gives to his disciples after he rose from the dead. And just by way of reminder, we've just celebrated Easter, but what's happening here is coming after the betrayal of Jesus by his closest friends and disciples, including Peter, who said robustly, Jesus, I will never abandon you. I will die for you. And Jesus called him out and say, Peter, this very night, you will deny even knowing me 3 times. And that's what happened. And then what proceeds in the next couple of days is the trial, the torture, the crucifixion, the death of Jesus, and then the resurrection and the new beginning, really, for all of human history. So what happens here is Jesus has already appeared to the disciples a couple times, and they're out fishing at the Sea of Tiberias. And what happens is, as they're out fishing, they look and they see a man on shore who calls to him. And I'm not going to recount the whole thing that happens here, but they recognize it as Jesus, and they begin to row back towards the shore. Peter jumps in the water and swims towards the beach. And it's a beautiful scene as Jesus has prepared breakfast for them. There's a fire going. He says, come and have breakfast. And it's a holy moment as they are encountering this risen Lord. But then it says in verse 15, it says, after they had finished breakfast, and there's a sense that they must get up and maybe go to take a walk or something. It says, after they'd finished breakfast, Jesus says to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he asks that to Peter 3 times. And each time Peter says, yes, Lord, I love you. You know I love you. You know all things. And Jesus gives this beautiful kind of threefold redemptive restoration, kind of countering that threefold betrayal of Jesus. 3 times he says, similarly, tend my sheep, feed my sheep, tend my sheep. Here's where I want to just get into for a few minutes. So after this, he says, truly, truly, I say to you, Peter, when you were younger, you used to gird yourself and walk wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will carry you and bring you where you do not wish to go. Now this he said, signifying by what kind of death he would glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he said to Peter, follow me. Key moment there. resurrected Jesus has served breakfast to the disciples. He's walking on the beach with Peter, having this intimate conversation, restoring him, giving him a commission: feed, tend, feed my sheep. And then he says this one more time: Peter, follow me. And what was Peter's response? I'll read it to you. Peter, turning around, saw the disciple. This is John. John's actually writing this, so it's kind of funny that John's writing this really about himself. It says, immediately after Jesus says, follow me, Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them, the one who had leaned back on Jesus' breast at the Last Supper, and said, Lord, who is the one who betrays you? Peter, therefore, again, turned around, looking at John, said to Jesus, well, Lord, what about this man? Jesus said to Peter, if I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. And sisters, I've just been thinking so much about this scene and about following, about keeping my eyes fixed on Jesus, because notice what Peter didn't do. Notice what wasn't his response. Jesus gives this threefold commission, threefold restoration, says, follow me. Peter could have said, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Or he could have said, Lord, I'm not sure what you mean exactly about this, but I will trust you. I will follow you and obey. Or he could have said, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for restoring me. Thank you for forgiving me. But that's not Peter's response. He turns away from Jesus and looks at another person. Totally distracted. And actually, what's really interesting, and this was, again, humbling for me, John was actually doing what Jesus had commanded them to do. He was following them. That's exactly what it says in the text. Peter turned away from Jesus, looked and sees John following along. And Jesus' words to him is a gentle rebuke. He's basically saying, Peter, don't worry about what's behind you. Don't worry about what's beside you. It's not your concern what I'm doing with other people or what I'm not doing with other people. You follow me. And that's a word that maybe you need to hear as much as I need to hear. There are so many things right now that could distract us. There are so many things right now where we could be saying, well, Lord, what about them? Or Lord, what about this? How come this? And I do believe that a part of the Lord's provision for us is a gentle encouragement. Follow me. Maybe some of us have needed a gentle rebuke or a reorientation with Jesus saying, Ellen, what is that to you? Or put your name in there. Don't worry about what I'm doing over there or what I'm doing over here. You follow me. And that is the gospel invitation, including right now in the midst of COVID-19. Our staff team was talking about just God's sovereignty in the midst of all this. And it is really comforting and helps me to remember what Psalm 139:16, I think 16 or 18 says, that all the days ordained for us were written in God's book before one of them came to be. And so, sisters, that means all of God's purposes, which may be hard, may lead to loss, may lead to a lot of discomfort. All of God's purposes for this pandemic have been ordained before they came to be in light of how it's going to impact our daily lives. And for me, I can be fearful of pain, fearful of suffering, but it does help me to know that what may come as huge surprises or shocks to me, they're not a surprise to the Lord. As a coworker of mine used to say, God's not in heaven wringing his hands. He knows what he's doing. He's able to accomplish his purposes for us. and He's faithful to be with us. But the invitation is there. Ellen, you follow me. And I offer that to you as a reminder that no matter what's going on, the invitation is always there, moment after moment, with your children, in your marriage, with your roommate, with physical suffering you're having, with other types of suffering that you're going through, financial hardships, whatever it might be. Christ still says to us, follow me, trust in me, I'm with you always. So take care, sisters. We're all in this together, praying for each other and helping each other along. Bye.